This is everything you need to know about children's picture books, and the third and final myth we need to talk about is the one I find the most egregious, and unfortunately it's the one most picture book authors are gonna have to abide by, and that's the rule of reduction. No matter where you look for picture book writing advice, you're gonna find word limits. For 0 to 5-year-olds, it's gonna be less than 300 words. For 6 to 9-year-olds, it's gonna be less than 700 words. And they're all gonna come with a page limit of 32 pages and maybe 40 if your book's good enough and you're lucky. But here's the problem with these numbers. They're presented as though these parameters make the best children's books, when in reality, they're just the parameters the publishing houses have settled on. Which is fine, publishing is a business, and when you have thousands of manuscripts in an overly saturated market, you can afford to be choosy. Shorter books have fewer pages you have to print, fewer illustrations you have to pay for, and fewer words you have to edit. And if an author has a few books that wind up being very popular, or if they have a large following outside the book industry, those parameters can be waived. But while these rules make sense for the publishing industry, they don't necessarily make sense for children's literature. Under these parameters, none of these books would ever have been published. Can you imagine the audacity of someone saying out loud that books like The Cat in the Hat and Make Way for Ducklings and Strega Nona and The Best Nest would all be better literature if they were cut in half? These rules severely limit an author's ability to fully flesh out a story, and this can have a few different effects. First, on the positive side, when you only have 300 words to work with, then you're going to really focus on word choice, which can be a great exercise, especially for new authors. Make sure you're only saying exactly what you need to, and everything you don't say can be covered by the illustrations, which we're going to talk about later. However, these limitations severely reduce literary content. When children aren't exposed to rich description and nuanced storylines when they're young enough to be read to, they may not develop the patience or desire to read them themselves when they're older. Remember, this is where a child's love of reading is formed, and that's a hefty responsibility that we as authors need to consider when deciding which parameters we're going to hold to.